Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Housing and Community Development Commission. It's my pleasure to call this meeting to order on February 13th at 5:45 p.m. The meeting is being conducted both in person and remotely to ensure maximum public accessibility and will be recorded for documentation purposes. Before we proceed, let's go over some meeting logistics. Please address all comments and questions to the chair and refrain from engaging in any side conversations of interrupting other speakers during a meeting. Commissioners, please remember to speak directly into the microphone so the public can hear you, your statements clearly. I want to remind you that the microphones are constantly on, so if you need to turn it off, make sure you push and hold down the button and a red ring will come on and you'll know your microphone has been muted. Members of the public are encouraged to participate by offering comments on each agenda item. They'll have 2 minutes to speak. Additionally, we'll have 2 open forum sessions tonight, one at the beginning and one at the end, where you could talk about any topics that are not covered on the agenda. For the participants that wish to speak, please speak clearly and audibly so that your microphones can hear your remarks, ensuring that commissioners can also hear you speak. That being said, I would like to quickly go over the code of conduct. The code of conduct ensures that we establish the rules of decorum to be observed by both the commissioners and member of public when addressing policy matters during the meetings. Its purpose is to foster open and constructive discussions on public policy matters, promoting an environment of fairness, politeness, and respect for differing perspectives. When participating in meeting, please adhere to the following. Focus your comments solely on the item under discussion. Direct your remarks to the entire assembly. Please refrain from attempting to engage individual commissioners or staff members in direct conversations, as they will not be honored, and refrain from using abusive language which is inappropriate. Failure to comply with the code of conduct not only disturbs or disrupts and impedes the meeting, but it may result in the removal from the meeting. With that being said, I would like to turn over to introduction and roll calls. So let's get started with the commissioners here. And we will start. Andy, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Finn,
Here.
Chair Jasinski,
Here.
Commissioner Dawson is not here. Commissioner Mawad,
Here.
Commissioner De Bono is not here. Commissioner Khan is not here. Commissioner Navarro,
Here.
Commissioner Beeler,
Here.
Vice Chair Partita is not here. Commissioner Tran,
Here.
Commissioner Sapperman,
Here.
Commissioner Gabrian,
Oh. Here.
and we have quorum.
Thank you very much. Staff, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. Mindy Nguyen, Development Officer with the Housing Department.
Oh, it's on. Okay. I'm Banu Sun, standing in for Eric Sullivan. I'm Deputy Director of the Housing Development Group.
Emily Hislop, Division Manager for Rent Stabilization and Eviction Prevention in the Housing Department.
Vanessa Pacheco, Senior Analyst for Rent Stabilization Program, Housing Department.
And I want to focus that Vanessa was recently promoted to Senior Analyst overseeing our petitions and enforcement group. So you'll be seeing a lot more of her. That we're very excited to have her leading the team.
Congratulations. Okay, so we will move over to the consent calendar now. The topic on the consent calendar is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on December 12th, 2024. Action item, approve the December 12th, 2024 action minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Nope. Okay, let's call a vote.
The motion is to approve the minutes of December 12th. The maker was Commissioner Finn, second by Commissioner Beeler. Commissioner Finn,
Yes.
Chair Jasinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Mawad,
Yes.
Commissioner Navarro,
Yes.
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Tran,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapperman,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gabriel.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to reports and information only. Up first is the chair. First and foremost, I want to welcome our new commissioner, Ali Sapperman. Did I get it right?
Saferman.
Saberman. Oh,
It's okay.
okay. I'm gonna get it right. I promise you. Okay. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Very excited. Position's been vacant for a while, so we're getting really close to having a full commission here. I don't like putting people on the spot. You don't have to say anything, but did you want to say anything about yourself?
Sure. In my kind of day job, I work on housing advocacy all across California, both locally and in Sacramento. I'm a District 3 resident, live really close to City Hall, and really happy to be a renter and in a rent stabilized place, and to be in the seat from the mayor.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for joining us here. As chair, I sent out an email to all the commissioners, just advising you that there will be discussions on Measure E coming up. And the next couple of months of these commission meetings will be a little bit heavier. So please prepare yourself to have a little bit later nights than we've had as of late. So I would just recommend that everyone come prepared with your questions. I know that conversation spurs more questions, and that's absolutely okay. Measure E tends to be a very debated agenda item. Let's see, I think Director Sullivan mentioned that he would be speaking to it lightly as well next month. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we'll get a little bit of a snippet of what is to come. That being said, I will, since we have a fill-in for the director report, is there a director report?
Not currently.
Okay, perfect, no problem. There's no council district liaison, so I do want to welcome Commissioner Dawson and Vice Chair Partita. Thank you. And with that, we will move into the open forum section. This is where members of the public are invited to speak on any item that does not appear on today's agenda and is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Anyone who wants to speak will have a limit of 2 minutes to speak on this open forum. And given we don't have any members of the public here, is there any commissioner that has something that they would like to discuss? No? Okay, yes.
I do.
Sorry, yes, Commissioner Finn.
Since it's not an item on the agenda, I would like to discuss what just recently happened with one of our housing advocates, Bartha O'Connor, who was in a meeting with the owners, I believe, or the managers of one of the Harmony Parks. And she was treated in a very disrespectful manner and was only given 2 minutes to talk, and said that that was the extent of the meeting and that the meeting was then adjourned. During that point in time, the manager said that there was only 2 options for somebody moving into the park, either a 10-year or a 20-year lease. I do not think that that is in line with our housing regulations and rules. So I would like to see if the city can do something to maybe notify the state of this violation, if that's a possibility. And if not, then I will try to get hold of the people who were violated against and have them notify the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Finn. Appreciate that. Saying no one else. Okay, we will move to the next item on the agenda, old business. Seeing no old business, we will now proceed into new business. Agenda item A, which is the rent stabilization program fiscal year 2024-2025. Q2 interaction log report for mobile homes. The action item is to review the rent stabilization program interaction log report for mobile homes in the second quarter of fiscal year 2024, 2025, and other updates and provide possible recommendations to staff. That being said, I will turn it to Emily.
Just really quickly, Ryan, I just want to introduce Commissioner Khan, who just arrived.
Commissioner Khan, welcome very much. Grab a seat wherever you're most comfortable. I have one here. If you want to come sit next to me, you can sit over there. Totally your choice. Probably better if sit next to me, but there's no better seat. I'm just admitting I'm the best seat in the house. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so sorry that I'm late. The parking garage was closed.
Oh, no, totally okay. One here? Closed?
Yeah, the one right over there. Around Anyway, sorry about.
No worries. We'll get back to you at the tail end of this
Yes.
conversation here. I will turn this over to Emily.
Thank you, Chair Jasinski, and good evening, everybody. I know it's a wet day, so appreciate you all coming out. At the ongoing request of the commission, we provide a quarterly report of our interaction logs. We're not doing a presentation. We're coming back twice a year with a full report of the rent stabilization program. As you will see, our quarter two was pretty much focused on the fair return petition we received from Golden Wheel, which is a very labor-intensive endeavor. So that's a lot that it's detailed in the report. We thought it might be valuable for the commissioners to understand just how much this team pulled together to afford the residents and owners due process and a process that's devoid of due prejudice to their rights and in a timely fashion. So Vanessa and I are here to answer questions you may have about the interaction logs or anything in the report or that happened in Q2. The decision did come out in early January, but we can discuss the outcome of it too, even though it's not technically in Q2.
Thank you very much. I will just go around the room as usual. I will start with Commissioner Navarro. Good to see you. Commissioner Wheeler, Commissioner Finn.
Yeah, can you tell me what the owners of Golden Wheel were asking for at the beginning of the hearing and what the final outcome was as far as an increase for the residents?
Are you referring to the amount of rent increase they were asking for, or just for overall what the petition process looked like?
I know what the petition process is like because I've been through a couple of them myself.
Okay.
So no, I wanted to know what the management group or the owner was asking for in the first place that brought about the rental rights hearing,
Yeah.
and what the final outcome was as far as
Yeah.
the increased cost to the resident.
Yeah, so the fair return that was filed for this property, they were asking for a rent increase for all of the residents that are covered under the mobile home rent ordinance. The outcome of that was that they were denied the rent increase. So there was no rent increase that became effective. I have the information right here. So the park owner proposed a $60 with 3 cents rent increase amount, which consisted of a $7.94 permanent increase and a $52.09 temporary increase, which was based on a 12-year amortization schedule. And as I mentioned, the hearing officer determined that they were not entitled to a rent increase of either amount.
Great, thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Commissioner Gabriel,
I don't have any.
Commissioner Dawson.
Forgive me, because I think you've actually answered this question for me before about who's the hearing officer and their background. I know I've asked this before, so I'm sorry. And if, for example, either party, do they have any right of appeal afterwards? And part of the motivation of my question is I know a lot of things get stalled at City Hall when an attorney needs to be involved, and that's high-priced talent and usually you have to wait months. So I'm just kind of wondering how it's all working right now.
So the hearing officer, they're actually independent contractors. They're not, part of the city, so they're third party. And then in terms of the right to appeal, so under the ordinance, the decision can be challenged only if there's like a miscalculation or the other part of the ordinance does state that then if they want to challenge, then it would have to go through a judicial review. So it wouldn't be directly with the city or
Thank
with
you.
our program. No
Thank you.
problem.
I'll try to remember.
And I'll just note, they did indicate that they intended to seek what's called a writ of mandate, judicial review of the decision. The legal term for what they will file in court to challenge the decision is called a writ of mandate.
Oh, okay.
To date, it has not been filed, but they did express their intent.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tran?
Yes, we actually did get an email, of course, from former Chair Martha O'Connell referencing an incident related to Patrick Yang and Golden Wheel. Is there anything about that incident in this memo or tied to in reference in this memo?
No.
Other than it being the same mobile home park that filed the fair return petition, that's the only related.
Understood. Okay, thank you. That's all.
No questions. Commissioner, oh, apologies one more time.
On.
Khan, thank you. Commissioner Khan?
Thank you, guys, and I'm so sorry. I have a couple questions, just because I'm new, so please bear with me. So I guess like I was reading through this analysis yesterday and also just briefly right now, and I noticed that residents they predominantly spoke Vietnamese as their primary language, and they had limited English proficiency. So were translators provided, or how did you guys go about the process of communicating with?
Yeah, so we did provide an interpreter at all of these hearings. We had them both in Spanish and in Vietnamese.
Perfect, thank you.
She's underselling the efforts. that were
Wow.
in place. We held 3 community meetings prior to inform the residents of what this was.
Mhm.
Our first notice to the residents, I think it was the first one, we translated into Spanish and Vietnamese. So we knew that for people to have due process and be able to gauge in the process, they had to understand. And then their interpreters were provided. We did not translate the entire decision, but we did do a summary of what the decision was and had it translated into Vietnamese and Spanish.
Beautiful, thank you so much. And then I noticed that residents followed up on the illegal RV rent increase. I know that a few commissioners here, like Commissioner Dawson, were talking about that. If let's say somebody had, due to the lack of communication and, English not being their primary language, were there any cases where, they saw the notice and they were like, okay, I actually have to leave now, and they left? And if they did, were there any efforts taken in place to re-inform them about their rights and that, they could, potentially go back to their mobile homes or RV tenant areas?
I will let Vanessa talk about what our common practice is for inquiries to the program.
Yeah, so anytime a resident does have any question or any legal question, we always refer them to the Mobile Home Assistance Center, and we also provide them with legal services information or organizations that are here within the community.
Okay, awesome. And then I also just following up, I also noticed that there was a fee exempt form, and I noticed that there were 58 mobile home parks that received the fee exemption form. Kind of like going back to the previous question, were there any inquiries about were there any inquiries from mobile homes or from individuals or individual tenants that were asking to apply for the fee exemption but were denied? Or on what grounds were they denied?
So the exemption really applies to the management. We send out notices every year for parks to submit their exemption. So it's just more of the spaces themselves that are exempt from being covered under the mobile home right ordinance. So this isn't related directly to residents, but it's more of, with the park management. Park managers or the management and they send us if they're requesting fee exemptions, and they have to submit, copies of the leases of all the spaces that are under, long-term leases, or if some of the spaces are occupied or owner occupied, they would also have to provide documentation. So there are reasons as to why a mobile home space is exempt. And like I mentioned, it's either they're a long-term lease, they're owner occupied, the space itself was permitted after 1979. And then the other reason I believe is if what was sorry. So yeah, here just, like I mentioned, it's if that's owner occupied, the permits were issued after 1979, or there is a long-term lease. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much for explaining that.
Yeah.
And one last thing, I noticed that you, in the conclusion and like the brief analysis, you mentioned that program staff continues to communicate with the public to respond to their needs. Is there kind of like a motion set in place, or perhaps like a recommendation, or perhaps a process to improve the program where you guys actually inform each individual tenant about their kind of final decision for their mobile homes and stuff like that, or to kind of inform them about their rights moving forward and the information that they need to continue to live in that space that's required?
So we don't actually go, to each of the spaces and talk about them. We do outreach efforts, so we go out into the community. We participate in community resource fairs. One of the efforts that we do is we want to target the communities that have like mobile homes within that same. So if we're going to a park that's having a community fair, if there's a mobile home community nearby, we want to make sure we attend those events as well. And this is just, because when we'll have like, as residents walk by, we'll provide them with like the information of what their rights are, whether they are under the mobile home rent ordinance or the ARO, or even just having to provide them with renters' rights under state law.
Thank you. I really appreciate that insight. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great questions.
Thank
Just to let you know as well, it is a mandate for all park owners to send out a notice of rights and responsibilities to all mobile home residents at the beginning of every year. So residents tend to get a big packet with a bunch of different things, which talks about state responsibilities and rights for both park owners and homeowners.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank
And-
you.
And we send a letter, a summary letter every year. We're required to under the ordinance, and every year we're kind of looking at it to see how it can be improved to be better communication or catch people's eye.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
I do have a question regarding the RVs, and based off of my reading here for the Western Manufactured Housing or Western Trailer Park, it appears, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or anything like that, that the city has made the legal determination that that is an illegal rent increase. And based off of this last sentence here, it talks about program leadership has collaborated with the city attorney office to identify an enforcement mechanism and developing that process with the intention of implementing the process for this matter in Q3. Has a determination been made?
So we learned about another mechanism under the municipal code that was enacted. It's an administrative remedy enacted many years after the mobile home ordinance, that it could be applicable to any violation of the municipal code. So we had sent the letter that this would be a violation of the municipal code because RVs are covered under our ordinance. This compliance order mechanism is typically used in code enforcement actions like visual. We are going to undertake an action, but this is the first time we've ever done it. We also, in addition, have been following up with partners. There was a representative of a resident and an additional resident to kind of keep in the loop, find out what's going on, because ultimately this compliance order, if it goes through the process, all it can do is impose a penalty. We as a city can't go take money out of the park owner's bank account and pay the tenants back. And really, our goal is to protect the tenants and make sure they stay housed in their rights. But we only within our power is to levy fines, and that benefits the city. Not benefits, but that gets paid. We understand about these owners. We've already gone back and forth. They've made it clear they don't agree with our interpretation. They don't intend to rescind the notices or return the money. So we anticipate that anything is going to be a legal challenge. It's not going to be solved overnight. At the same time, we've reached out to legal partners to at least know that they're working with some of the residents. They are aware. This is a very well-known park owner, and these tactics or this behavior is pretty typical for them across the state. So again, we're engaged. We're going to use what we have in our tool cabinet, but most importantly, we learned that nobody has heard or learned in their systems of any unlawful detainer eviction lawsuits being filed. And that's what we're really concerned about, is it getting to the court stage and that somebody might be lose their home because of this illegal rent increase. We're also in court. We also see the court calendar for our eviction prevention efforts. So we're really working with all partners to keep on our toes, and that if there is a court action, we can talk with the city attorney about whether the city can participate at all.
Appreciate the details there. So is the enforcement mechanism a part of the rent stabilization ordinance? Or would that be something that the city, as you said, levies just on the basis of what possible rule or law?
It's Municipal Code Section 1.14, Administrative Revenues. It's the first chapter of the Municipal Code. And it details the process and what the penalty is for each violation each day.
Okay, great. And sorry, I'm going to keep peppering on this one. What happens with the residents in the meantime? I mean, I understand that the city is working on, well, you've come to a conclusion, it sounds like, working with your attorney. In the meantime, the residents are having to pay this increase. Now, you said that the residents or the city can't claw back that money for the residents. So then what does that mean for the residents ultimately? What would they need to do in order to get this increase retroactively back to the allowable increase and then claw back the money that's owed to them? Does the city, I mean, I would presume that the city is going to communicate that effectively with the residents, but we all know with assumptions.
So one tricky part is that we only can talk to the residents who've reached out to us.
Gotcha.
So we've done, we've made efforts to the ones we've spoken to. Can you please have people contact us? We do know some of them have reached out to legal aid, so we know that they're engaged, and the legal aid organization is very aware and still, working on, they just know they need partners. It'll be a protracted litigation. Forgot where I was going, what the other part of your question was. Sorry.
No worries. So you said, I was talking about how the
Oh.
residents would get that increase retroactive back to the
So-
appropriate space rent and be able to retroactively get all the funds owed to them.
It
I guess
would
that's independent.
require a court action. So it's either an affirmative court action, one that the residents file,
Okay.
or in it can come up in the course of an unlawful detainer as a defense.
So then the onus is on the residents is what I'm hearing in order to protect themselves in this situation.
Other than usually penalties are punitive in such a way that people will comply.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying for their own purposes. Okay. Fair enough. No, that gives me some good information. I really appreciate it. I just know this has been going on for a long time and the residents obviously have a right for concern. So I really appreciate all the hard work and effort. I know it's not easy. So
It would help us a lot if they reached out to us. I mean, we're in a better position if we know who's still there and we can stay in contact. So if any reach out to commissioners, we'd appreciate them being referred to us as well.
by the we, you are referring to residents?
Sorry. If residents reach out to
Okay.
commissioners, like we encourage you to give them the program's number so
Okay,
we can talk to them.
appreciate that. Okay,
sorry.
and the discussion already happened on the petition hearing, so I will turn it over to Vice Chair Partita. Thank you again. Just a follow-up question?
Forgive me, Chair. I was unable to hear part of your response
Oh.
and I don't want to miss it. You said something about the most important thing. And then I didn't hear after that. Just right at the beginning, what you said.
The
that was
most
a-
important thing is that we know our residents are stably housed.
okay, well, that's not controversial. Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Partita?
So just based off what you said right now, so you're saying that the residents would have to organize themselves and reach out to you if they would want any kind of action to take place?
We're taking action. We don't know the scope of the issue because we've only had 2 effectively residents talk to us. We understand there's 40 RV. I can't remember.
There's
Shoot.
57 or something.
We do have in our records how many RV spaces there are, and we do understand, even the owner is represented, that notice went out to all the RV occupants. And we do know that legal aid has spoken with several residents as well.
Okay. And then I guess my follow-up question is, none of the prevention dollars that are out there could be, because just as Chair was saying, I mean, yeah, it's only, I don't know, $50, $60, but some people don't even have that to pay for right now. So if they keep on paying that for months, then they can be asked to move out while all this litigation is taking place.
I think there might be a little confusion between the fair return, the petition. That was a 60% increase that owner was seeking. The increase that this owner imposed on the RV residents was like 60%. I mean, it was, and then it had some weird subsidy. So this is I think some people were paying around $900 a space rent, and then it was shot up to $1,600. So, and it's generally not our, when we have this eviction diversion program, which you might be referring to, one of the things we check is whether there's been an illegal rent increase, because we're not gonna, we don't want to reward any property owners for not following the law.
So could there be something where you could pair up these program with these people?
Well, that program is only in court when somebody is facing a court eviction. And it's very limited. Somebody has to be able to pay the rent going forward. If one of those cases came to us, that we would, I mean, if that was in court, that gives the city some other possible options. So, but, I can't opine as whether the city would support paying an owner who's imposing an unlawful rent increase.
Okay. And then my other question was regarding the number of calls. That is the same park, right? That we're talking about?
Golden Wheel is the park that had the fair return. Western Manufactured Housing Community was the park with the RVs.
So with that is, I'm sorry, maybe I got confused, but with the outreach that you were doing, do you think that would, I guess, reflect the number of calls? Because there is a lot of Golden Wheel Park calls.
So the reason that we had a high number of calls for the Golden or the interactions for Golden Wheel is because they weren't just calls from like residents who had questions, but it was also communication that was going on between our program staff and the park residents. The park representative. Residents representative. So it was like all the communication that was going back and forth that was being logged into our interaction log. So that's why we have a high number of interactions for specifically for the Golden Wheel Park.
Okay. And that's it.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna get it right this time. Commissioner Sopperman.
Saperman,
Saperman. All right, I'm gonna rewrite this.
you're good.
Thank you, sorry.
I want to thank staff for putting this report together. I just had a quick comment on the call log. On the first page, towards the bottom, October 7th, Golden Wheel. Just wanted to suggest some different language for the topic. It's listed as homeless, and when you go into the actual details of the call log, it talks about unhoused individuals. I think it would be more appropriate to use person experiencing homelessness or unhoused instead of just homeless. I think that might have just been like someone moving quick, but wanted to call that out.
Yeah, thank you for your comment and feedback. That is actually one of the items that I do intend to work on in updating the process that we do and the procedure for doing the interactions and just basically categorizing all the calls that we get accurately and, you know, more up to date than what we currently have in our system. Thank you.
Just for some perspective, we get thousands and thousands of calls
Yeah.
in the program, and we're using a Salesforce database, and it's set up a certain way. And one of our, projects has been to really rehaul it because it kind of started in one capacity and then the program completely changed. So this is a good note because some of these are drop-down menus that we'll take with us into the
Yes.
updates we're doing.
I use Salesforce too. It's interesting sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll do one quick look around. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Finn.
I'm wondering, are you aware if any of the RV owners have moved out on their own because of the rent increase?
We're not aware so far.
Okay. I thought we were mostly just talking at first about Western manufacturing. And then we got into Golden Wheel. Both of these parks are owned by the same owners, our property managers. I believe they own both parks, not just manage them. And they are notorious in California, not only for defying city rules and regulations, but for busting up rent relief for people, rent stabilization program. They have it in their mind to basically destroy the city of San Jose's rent stabilization program. That's what they want to do. And that's where they're heading. From what I've heard from you guys, as far as Golden Wheel and the RVs go, you're working on it and hopefully we'll come to a conclusion and find some remedy for these people, but you will not be able to get back any of the money that they've already put out. To do that, they will have to hire their own legal teams and sue the corporation that owns these parks. That also being said, they are also now in violation in one of their parks for demanding that people sign either a 10-year or a 20-year lease and they are not offering them a month-to-month lease. I just want to know what the city is going to do to try to combat this, because I mentioned it before the meeting started. This is like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike, and we're plugging up this little leak. But if we don't really pay attention, that whole dike is going to collapse on top of it. So I would like to put forward a motion to get the city attorney to actually take a much harder course of action on this, but I don't think I'm allowed to do that.
I just want to say that I did not intend to represent that the city would never do anything to support any action to help to have the residents recoup funds. It's just where we are and what options we have, that changes at every action that may happen. And we just got a new set of facts. Yes, it's the same owner. We need to confer with housing leadership and city attorney to find out what our options even are. But we are doing what we can within our ordinance, and taking a compliance action. I'm just trying to be realistic that simply doing that action I may not resolve this problem. That's just one thing that we can do. So I was trying to be realistic to manage expectations and not just say, once we do this and we issue the order, the problem is solved. I want to be honest. I've read we've Googled them, we understand too.
Well, I don't see this as a problem that's going to be solved real soon or even to most people's satisfaction. This has been going on as far as the RVs since July. And I hear that there's something happening, but we don't really see it. We don't know that any action is really being taken to help these people. In the meantime, they are putting money out of their pockets that they really can't afford to spend. And they may or may not be able to recoup that with the city's help. I will put it that way, I guess. But more than likely, it seems they're going to actually have to hire attorneys in order to get recompense from this situation. And I find that really rather heartbreaking.
Our city and then the county and other cities fund legal aid organizations for low-income tenants. And when I refer to legal aid organization, that's who's been speaking with some tenants. So just a tenant can always go out and hire an attorney, but the state and other organizations do fund legal aid for exactly these purposes. That being said, they only have so much capacity, and it's one thing to defend an eviction, but it's quite another large workload to engage in a full case. So they have to look for other partners too. They can't tell me everything they're doing. They have attorney-client privilege. And so I bug them all the time to see what they could tell me, so I can at least share with you that they're not involved. And that, but that's all they can tell me, and that's all that I can share. And we will keep reaching out to the residents, and as new facts come up or as new situations come up, we will reassess what enforcement options or other options we have.
I believe you mentioned that there were 2 RV residents that came forward to the city, or was it more than 2?
It was, one had a representative of one reached out to us and had been working directly with the park ownership. And there was another one earlier. But Vanessa, can you?
Yeah, so like Emily mentioned, we had one individual reach out to our program about the matter, but they were representing one of the residents. And then we had another resident also call our program as well as about the same. So in total, we had 2 residents that had one had a representative that had reached out to us. So it was just those 2 residents
Okay,
that we
and
have knowledge of.
Also in the call log, It stated that you guys asked the exact numbers of RVs in that mobile home park. And I didn't see anywhere that they replied with an answer, but I heard you say that you believe there are 40?
Don't quote me. I shouldn't have said what came to my head. I haven't
Okay.
looked it up. I looked it up a while ago, but it wasn't a small number.
So my
Um,
point being is that the Western Manufactured Housing has not gotten back to you with a number?
We're gonna have to look into that and come back. It was a different staff member who's now on leave.
Okay.
But we had other older records that we were looking at to see how many RV spaces. Is it on the HCD website? This was in October, but we can follow up with you.
That'd be great. And if necessary, I can go to the park and walk around it and count them, if that's what it takes. It seems like a very small number of people have come forward, and I would like to try to do something to increase that number. And I will, going forward, try to get more people who are in that situation to call in and make themselves known to you. So if that's helpful at all for you guys.
Yes, it is.
And I don't want you to get me wrong. I appreciate all the work you're doing, and I understand what a hassle this is and how hard it is. And I know what you're up against with this owner. It's not going to be easy, and they will keep coming back at you. But just, we got to be vigilant, because they will. They will try to destroy our program. Thank you.
Commissioner Tran, you had your hand up.
Yes. Does the department have like a policy on how it just handles repeat violators? I mean, went from the landlord side?
We're actually developing enforcement mechanisms and with our new leadership and also as part of our strategic plan, and as we're finally out of the pandemic. And that is one of the considerations in any enforcement process, is, okay, you can have some steps for somebody who may just not know the law, and you start with a kind warning, but I think what I heard from council during a code enforcement session is that it's critical to have kind of fast track for a repeat violator. So that's something that this has been a good exercise for us to think through these things, but it is on our work plan right now, and we're working on streamlined enforcement mechanisms across all our programs.
That was a question.
I got couple more questions then. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I just want point of clarity. Does the city believe that RVs are governed by the city's rent stabilization ordinance? Or are you using the mobile home residency law?
The definition is broad in our ordinance, and we have always taken the position that RVs are covered by our ordinance, by the language in our ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next one, correct me if I'm wrong here. The city made their position known to Western Trailer Park regarding the illegal increase in writing.
Yes,
Was that notification sent to the residents as well?
yes.
Okay.
It was provided to a couple people that asked for it.
Okay, yeah, because I think, that could obviously be helpful to them
Yeah.
down the road. So, thank you. Commissioner Saperman.
Yeah, thank you. In response to Commissioner Tran's question, it might be worthwhile to look at the responsible wage ordinance and the way we regulate repeat offenders on the construction side, just as some frame of language. And I know we're looking to make updates to that policy as well. And so maybe the two can mirror each other.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Dawson. I whatever. No, that's okay. Go ahead. We're still good.
Just quickly, and I'm motivated by listening to Commissioner Ben's frustration. I actually worked for a council member that staffed the old Mobile Home Park Commission in the 1990s, in the mid 1990s. And during that, I'm winding up my first term, and my frustration now is the same as it was then. We don't have a way to reward or at least celebrate responsible mobile home park owners. And it takes forever to do something about the bad guys. And it always winds up, well, we need an attorney. So why couldn't we as a commission simply say, is enough attorneys' time being spent on this issue? How many attorneys are working on it, and get some kind of report back? Or at least some sort of information. Because I think, again, this is going to boil down to a legal matter. And I'm kind of a code enforcement geek. It's kind of my thing I've been listening to forever. And I know that code enforcement in this city for a very long time is complaint based. You don't have a lot of, there's very few dedicated folks who just drive around and look for. I'm just wondering when we're going to actually try to figure out a way to do those things. So it's just interesting. And again, it's no reflection on staff. I've watched many good staff people tear all their hair out trying to deal with this. So I wish you luck. And if there is anything this commission could do, just to say, look, you've got to help these people. And I do have sympathy for the park owners in terms of, I hope you've got a good solid definition of RV, because if I was a park owner, I'd say, show me exactly what an RV is. I'd want that very clear. So I think, both sides could use maybe a little love.
RVs are actually clearly defined under mobile home residency law in comparison. Under the mobile home residency law, they're
State law?
state law, but there's a clear definition between manufactured homes and RVs. And thank you for recognizing good park owners. I do appreciate that. So with that being said, we have made our recommendations. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Vanessa, for all your work. Really appreciate it. I know it's not easy all the time, but we will now go to the last item, which is open forum. Again, members of the public are invited to speak on items that are not on today's agenda, but within the subject matter of our jurisdiction of this commission. No one's here. Do we have anybody on the, yes, Commissioner Beeler?
Martha, I know that you're listening, and I will continue to speak against the fact that we don't have people in person here. I think it is a tragedy and it should be rectified, but I don't have time to talk because I have two jobs, and I'll sign a petition. You can email me, jen@jenbeeler.com. Other than that, I'm with you in solidarity. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Finn?
Now that was brought up, is there any movement on being able to hold open meetings with participation on Zoom? Or is this going to be locked down forever? I've noticed that there are some external groups that are doing it that are quasi associated with the city, but not really. We've already sent a letter expressing our opinions. Has any movement been made? Is this going to just be this way forever, and we're not going to have anybody here to participate in our hearings and our meetings? Because it's ridiculous. I mean, we've cut off the legs of most of the population of the city of San Jose that can't get down here to be at these meetings. And in the past, they've been able to do that since we incorporated Zoom in. And I don't know what the answer is, but I would surely love to see people participating again on Zoom.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Saferman.
One solution that I've seen some cities do for Zoom participation is have participants register within 24 hours ahead of time. I'm sure that's something that you guys have considered. I'm not really sure how that specifically prevents the concern with like Zoom bombing, but at least it provides a second like layer of accountability. I do think this is a little bit of an equity barrier, being that people would have to register 24 hours in advance, but it's still better than no public participation. So I just want to echo those sentiments, and I've heard similar things from the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Vice Chair Partita.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, I mean, some of you were in the pandemic. We did have like 30, 40 people call in and express their opinions about whatever the topic was, and that was always really helpful. Not only for the commissioners, but I think for staff members. So I don't know if we have to do another letter or who do we need to talk to, but I think having the option to provide public comment online would be very helpful.
Thank you. Commissioner Khan. Yes, absolutely. So remember, you can speak on public comment. So anything that was not on the agenda for this evening, that's within
Yes.
our jurisdiction.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to take too much time. I just wanted to introduce myself formally because Brown Act and everything I wanted to say. It's truly an honor to be present with such bright and educated people. Like I'm listening to you guys talk and I'm like, wow, I need to catch up on my homework. But thank you so much for giving me the place, and it's an honor to be here present with all of you guys. I also want to say that something that I'm looking forward to as a commissioner is having more events where we interact with the community. So if that's something, if any other commissioners or if there's anybody else or any organizations or people that you know that carry similar sentiments and stuff like that, I would love to collaborate. I kind of get that passion from my time serving on the youth commission here. So I would love to collaborate with you guys, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity and to say hi. So thank you.
You were one step ahead of me. I was going to do that after open forum and give you that opportunity, but I'm glad you did it one way or another. No apologies necessary. I think Commissioner Tran wanted to speak on open forum.
Yes. Yes, thank you, and welcome, Commissioner Khan. I know that we had some discussions prior to the start of the meeting around the letter that was submitted by former Commissioner O'Connell. I did just want to make sure that we address some of those on the record and have those included in our in the recording. So the letter that Commissioner O'Connell did send in referenced an incident at Golden Wheel involving a resident there where he was only offered 2 long-term rental options and not the month-to-month, which I believe he's entitled to under the law. Is that right?
There are no answerings and questions in open forum.
Okay. Well, then we're not going to address well, I mean, we can't have the discussion point. I just want to, and I really want to make sure that we kind of address here that the early discussion, it seemed that there appears to be a gap between or at least from an understanding perspective from the change in state law that makes all mobile home parks subject to local RSO ordinances. And what residents can do when they have incidents like this come up. There is seems to be a very valid concern here brought up by the resident Patrick Yang, also brought up by Commissioner O'Connell. And based on the last conversation we had around the mobile home report, if there isn't an avenue for folks to get clarity on, like just what they can do, the least we would hope is that they can come to the housing department for any mobile home park that's that the park is subject to get clarity on what their options are, right? And if the options are just, hey, you got to get a lawyer to sue, that kind of makes the law pointless when mobile home residents can't recover any overpaid rents that they paid for a mobile home owner who doesn't comply with the law. So I do hope that that's something that can be addressed. And that's also that we can at least get some more better understanding here about what options mobile home residents have when you have a park owner who's accused of denying one of their residents an option that they are supposed to be entitled to under the law.
Thank you, Commissioner Tran. Commissioner Dawson.
I think it's okay for me to make an announcement. I don't know if I can send individual emails, but I know you're all just dying to know how regional government works. And if you've ever heard of Metropolitan Transportation Commission and Association of Bay Area Governments, the League of Women Voters Bay Area is working with Alex Bockelman, Deputy Executive Director, on basic presentation of how this emerged agency is working. And in case you're wondering, we're going to have some specific examples. I hope I get one from San Jose about how that funding trickles down and affects us in local jurisdictions. For example, MTC puts out over about $1 billion a year. I mean, this is not a small thing. And we're also going to do an update on a potential regional transportation measure. And I know it's about as much fun as watching paint dry, but I think it is something. For example, on the Virginian, if you saw that purchase, that was made whole by something called BAFA, Bay Area Housing Finance Authority, with about almost 5 million, I think. So again, I'm going to try to email all of you, and I hope the email will get through. And there's opportunity to submit questions in advance. When should I show up? When should I lobby? I know our new commissioner has some knowledge in terms of how to work with that organization, but it really does affect our lives. So again, this is an educational forum. So thank you for tolerance. It's actually March 8th, Saturday. So I'm going to try to get that out to all of you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will close open forum. I want to once again welcome Commissioner Khan and Commissioner Saperman. We're very excited to have you on here. And we will conclude. The next meeting schedule is scheduled for Thursday, March 13th, 2025, 5:45 in wing rooms 118 and 120 at San Jose City Hall, right in the same room. Items tentatively expected to be heard are moderate income strategy status report, funding priorities for consolidated plan 2025, and I'm guessing 2026, not 2023. 2030. There we go. 2030. Yeah, there we go. We like that. It's a 5-year plan. That would make best sense. So, and annual action plan fiscal year 2025, 2026. Annual progress report on housing element and housing successor report. As I stated to all of you, be prepared. The next couple meetings will be a little bit heavier in content. So we will be running a lot later. So enjoy the short evening tonight. I really appreciate all the open dialogue, and drive safely. And we will see each other next month. Take care.